welcome back to Crime Besties to another episode of the show. We, first of all, need to probably say sorry for the break, the unplanned break, but, life gets... it's my fault. It's my fault. I'll take full responsibility for it. Too many holidays, not enough time. You know how things go. So,
poor you.
Yeah, poor me. It's a hard life. Went to South Australia with my family and it was lovely. And then I did a bit of a 3-night cruise with some work friends or ex-work friends. So
is it a booze cruise?
Look, it ended up being a little bit like that. I mean, when you've got a drinks package on a cruise, why wouldn't you take full advantage? Like, I've got to pay for this somehow.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
Yes.
Got to make the most of it.
Your drinks package, it ain't free,
No, that's right. That's right. I've already paid for this. I might as well get my money's worth. That's right.
And some.
Yeah. We had one of our party, so I think there were 8 of us who went, and the girl I was sharing a room with, Lana, she ended up getting really, really seasick.
Yeah.
And it was really rough. It was like even the crew was saying how awful it was. So poor Lana didn't quite make the most of her drinks package, and I don't think cruising's in her future, but the rest of us, we had a pretty good time. So it was nice.
Oh, that's not good at all. I mean, seasickness can be horrendous.
Yeah, we ended up taking her to like the little medical facility on board, it was funny. Not for her.
No, I bet.
But she was saying even after having the anti-nausea medications and the injection and everything, she didn't feel good until we were back on solid land.
Oh, yeah.
So,
and pretty much you get on solid land and it goes.
Yeah, that's what she said.
Yeah.
It was like straight away.
It's almost like you're pregnant. Like, you have that baby and, I do want coffee and I do want...
Yeah, it turns out I feel amazing. It's not sucking the life out of me anymore.
Exactly. No, I've only been like seasick once and it was horrible. Like, yeah, I'm usually pretty good, but it's got to be pretty big seas to get me.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, yuck. Anyway, how was your break?
Oh, nice. It was good. We had lots of fun with the kids doing lots of different things like go-karting and we went to this great farm down Mornington Way where they get to be hands-on with all the animals and stuff, and so did that with a big crew and of friends and family, and that was really a good day out. So, no, we had a really good holidays. I really enjoyed it. It felt a bit longer with the Easter tacked on, so I think we got a lot out of the weekend or the couple of weeks. So, yeah I mean, back at it though.
Exactly. It's like everything's back.
Everything's back.
And the new season of everything started. So we're trying to figure out the new schedule and how it's all.
2 nights I was saying to you, I messaged you last night going, oh my God, my Wednesday, Thursdays are just...
Yeah, so what time did you get home last night?
Last night we didn't get home too late, as in it was, what time was it? About 6:30. Okay. But then it's still feed them dinner, bed routine stuff. Like
late.
It's late for that, like to do those things. But the night before we didn't get home till 8 o'clock.
Oh, yuck.
So that's going to be our regular on a Wednesday night.
Oh, that's yuck.
Yeah. So that's way past my bedtime. Like kind of.
Yeah. Is that like just takeaway as you're moving around between activities, or how are you going to manage that?
I wouldn't be able to do anything in life, I think, without my mum.
Oh,
mums are the best.
Yeah.
So we've worked it out. I mean, she's gone away today herself on a cruise. So I mean, the next few weeks, I'm not going to use her, but I'll basically go to her place after school. She's going to have dinner for the kids at like 4 o'clock.
Oh, that's
for them
the
to
best.
have. So, but I found though that they eat like no worries, but because they then do 2 hours of sports running around, we finished up training and like, right, let's go to the car. And I'm starving, Mum.
Yeah.
Like, so I still have to top them up again. So thankfully the canteen at where we train is open at that time of night.
Yeah.
And I'll probably be able to shove something at them
Some
from
chips
from there.
The chips from there are so good.
Yeah, they are really good. So yeah, they grab some of them on the way out.
Yeah.
But you've still got to then go there and order them, and then you wait for them to cook them, and then so that's all.
Yeah, because they cook them to order, don't they?
They do. So but that is easier than me trying to get home and then prepare
stuff.
something.
Oh,
so I just threw fruit at them as we walked in the door, kind of going like, right, shower while you eat some fruit, like the other one. Like, it's just
chaos.
Kill me.
Yeah, that's hard.
To then back it up with not such a late night the next night, but still.
But then, like, if you're getting home at 6:30, by the time you cook dinner, it is still a late night for the kids.
It is a late night for them. So, it's going to be, look, the beginning of our week's nice and calm. So
take those days to really chill out and have a few early nights.
Yeah, so it's pretty mental, but We will survive.
Yes, we will.
Yep. They love it.
I have a very quick shout out before we get started.
We're so many, no joke, with the 2 weeks we've been off, I mean, even prior, the episode that we did release prior to that, our socials have popped off. Trying to keep up with it's been big. So I love it. Thank you everyone that's commenting and, inboxing us, and it's amazing. So good.
So the person I picked to shout out today, she actually had the most amazing suggestion. And I actually can't believe we didn't have this case on our list.
Shocked.
So Alex Rogers, thank you very much. Number one, for your gorgeous inbox message. It was lovely. But her case suggestion was Jen Shah. I'm like, how did we not have that on?
I think because it's almost like that's not a crime, it's just housewives.
So I was saying to Meg, we will slot that in after we've had a really heavy week or something that's been really hard for us to...
We could do, maybe there's a few within housewives. Maybe we could do a little
mini-series
on that.
Yeah.
There's a few housewives with some criminal history.
Aren't there though? Oh, it's juicy and it's fun.
Yeah. Yeah. Although, I mean, at the end of the day, there's always a victim,
true.
Respectful, but...
Absolutely.
But at the same time, we can... when I saw that, I was like, oh, this is... How have we not got this on the list?
Who are we?
I know.
Anyway, thank you, Alex.
Drop the ball on that one.
That's it. So what we decided to do is a series that we're going to do 3 of the US school shootings. We're going to try and keep these episodes quite short and a bit... Look... The themes are very similar going through them. So today you're going to hear an episode on the Columbine school shooting. I'm sure a lot of us, especially of our generation, Meg, remember the Bowling for Columbine.
Yeah, Michael Moore documentary. Fantastic documentary.
It is amazing. I actually watched it again in preparation.
I actually wanted to, and I didn't do it, and I really should have.
Yeah.
I'm going to, because it's...
Do watch it back, because I actually got more from it, I think, watching it now than I did back then.
I reckon, absolutely, that's what I thought too. Yeah. Because we've got a different perspective on life, I think, these days.
For sure, but also the fact that we now know how much has happened since then, and how many times this has just been replicated, and how school shootings in the US are just par for the course. It's not if, it's when almost.
I'm just saying, researching this, we've sort of researched 3 different ones over this. We're going to do 3 that are basically roughly 10 years apart, each of them.
That's right.
So one from 30 years ago, 20 years ago, and more recently, sort of 20 years ago, 10 years ago, and more recent. And it just so interesting that, in the wrap up of researching all of them, each one you would read, and in the aftermath there was, it sparked conversations around, gun and violence and law and things like that should be around guns. And it was but we talked 20 years ago that sparked that conversation, and 10 years ago you sparked that conversation, and recently we've sparked that conversation, but yet to see any major changes in the US.
Well, I think that's something that we can talk about a lot.
Absolutely. Yeah, for sure.
During this. So, as I said, today we're doing Columbine. We're going to do another release on Friday. So you get 2 episodes this week. Lucky people.
Was it Thursday or Friday?
Oh, what do you want to do?
We'll do Thursday.
Do Thursday. All right, fine. Thursday you'll get another episode.
Tuesday and Thursday, and then you'll get Tuesday again.
Tuesday next week. And then from the week after that, we'll be back to our normal episodes.
I think we're going to do a double.
We are.
2-parter, because it's a big one we're going to do.
Yeah. So stay tuned for that.
Yes.
All right. Should we get into it?
Let's get into Columbine. Yeah.
Oh, my gosh.
Yeah.
All right. On the 20th of April in 1999, the Columbine High School massacre took place.
Mm-hmm.
So, giving a bit of context at the time, this was probably the first well-known school shooting that occurred in the US, and it really did kind of start a snowball effect of what we've now seen and what we now almost... I think there's almost a bit of a complacency. You'll hear about a school shooting in the US and you go, oh, yeah, another one. But these are the guys that, really started it all.
With the school shooting, the schools being targeted.
The massacre occurred at Columbine High School in Colorado in the US. And the perpetrators were 12th grade students. Their names were Eric Harris and Dylan Klebold. They murdered 13 students and 1 teacher. 10 were killed in the library, and the other students were killed. I think there was hallway, and then one of the teachers was actually killed in like his office.
Mm-hmm.
And it was at the time the deadliest mass shooting in a school in the US.
Yeah, it's currently ranked number 6.
Yeah, isn't that
and the
disgusting?
Fact that these are like, there is like a ranking of these even just blows my mind. But yeah, currently ranked number 6.
Yeah. It's horrific.
Absolutely horrific. And the number of injured in this was huge. There was 20 people just who were injured, let alone and then the 16 killed. So there was a lot going on. Yeah.
I feel like how do we actually even get into it? Because
I think this one really and when this happened, I have to say these guys were the exact same age as me at the time. So, like, I think when this happened, a lot of my friends and I were talking about all of this, of like bullying and things in school was definitely something that happened, within all schools. But how do you get to a point of where you decide that I'm going to go and shoot all these people? We were all experiencing in high schools. I mean, still today. I mean, to be honest, I wouldn't want to be a high school student today. I think it's far worse. But there was so much talk around the fact that the motivation of this was bullying and things, which I don't know if that was really ultimately the motive. Do you know what I mean? Like,
the thing that I think about this one is, like, when you read anything about the Columbine High School shootings, there's a lot of narrative around the fact that these two boys played a lot of video games.
Yes, that's the other thing that gets mentioned a lot too. Yes.
And that's the blame for it. Yeah. But fuck off. I'm sorry.
Research has sort of proven that that's not the case.
Exactly. And also, how many millions and probably up to billions of people play these first-person shooter type games or any sort of semi-violent or violent games who don't then go on to commit a mass murder.
No.
Like, to me,
there's got to be
I think it's
chemicals in the brain of that particular person.
Oh, for sure.
It's a combination of those things, not just, we played video games or he was bullied.
I think you're right.
I think that the bullying and the video games are actually more consequences of other chemical imbalances in the brain and like what the effect those things have on that person.
Yeah, okay, that's an interesting take. I mean, that absolutely is possibly true. I mean, we don't know because the thing is these two perpetrators died by suicide at Columbine High School on the day they shot themselves, and I believe that was their plan all along.
Yeah.
What they actually planned to do was they drove their cars to Columbine High School, parked them in the parking lot, and they actually put bombs in the cars in the parking lot.
And the cafeteria.
And in the cafeteria. They wanted them to go off at like 11:17, which was like right when the
lunch
rush or whatever
started.
The first group of people were going to be in the cafeteria, obviously maximum impact there.
Yeah.
What they then hoped was going to happen is that would then drive everyone out of the building and into the car park where those car bombs would then go off and inflict more harm.
Yeah. They planned on sort of also like shooting people as they were exiting the building as well. Like that was that's where they were aiming for. And I have to say, these two boys, so Eric Harris was sort of considered the leader of them.
They were called the Trench Coat Mafia?
The Trench Coat Mafia. Well, they weren't, that was actually a video. They used to make, they were part of like the video club or whatever.
Yeah.
And they used to make these videos and they made a movie around the Trench Coat Club or the Trench Coat Mafia, sorry. Now, they were not part of this group that were at school.
Okay.
They had friends who were in the Trench Coat Mafia.
Right, okay.
But they weren't specifically in it. But they chose specifically to wear those trench coats on the day because they did a fair bit of research before doing this. It was almost a year of them discussing and planning this. And they were actually decided purposefully to wear those trench coats because of what they had researched and found that they appeared intimidating. And because of this trench coat mafia stuff, they found that they thought that would be the most scariest to the people to come across.
Well, to be honest with you, that worked.
They were right. They're right. And you'll find, and if you look too then since then, like because people sort of copycat this, that there are others who have worn similar. And there's kind of like, if you when you think of someone who's doing a school massacre, unfortunately, that image does come to your mind of
Absolutely.
that trench coat and things. Yeah.
I mean, it's a good way, I guess, for them to conceal weapons and that kind of thing.
Yes.
Which is what they did. They had their weapons in their trench coats.
Well, I don't know. I don't know if conceal is a way to I don't think they were hiding the fact that they were carrying those weapons. It was more just that they had somewhere to carry them. Like, you know what I mean? Because they were quite happy to be
at the start. They were
because
they
to
get into school and
Absolutely.
to wait until the first bomb went off.
Yes. Yeah.
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 Unbelievable.
Yeah. So on the way at sort of 6 a.m.-ish in the morning, they'd actually gone and purchased the what do you call it, propane they have in like gas tanks to be able to set these bombs off.
Mm-hmm.
So they had done that first thing in the morning and then driven to the school. And as you say, they were expecting these bombs to be going off sort of 11:17-ish at the school. But when they didn't go off, they failed. At 11:21, they just began to shoot people.
Yeah, they were just like, oh, fuck it. We might as well just
go for it
ourselves.
Yeah, they didn't. They just went in. So from the parking lot, they began shooting. They hit their first victim in the parking lot and near the school entrance. At 11:24. So I mean, this is the thing. It's all very quick. But this is the thing. Guns have that ability. Like it's open fire.
Yeah.
They both entered the building via the cafeteria at that point, 11:24. And they just began shooting. So students were hit in the cafeteria, as we said, and then in the hallways, they started moving towards the hallways. And the students, like there was 2,000 students at this school.
Yeah,
it's a massive school. So there was like a rampage of students trying to exit as quick as possible and find ways out. I can't even imagine how scared they all would have been to do that. I mean, so there were injuries that were sustained by students that weren't gunshot, because people were,
there were
pushing, getting
multiple trampling injuries, like blunt force trauma type injuries because people were crushed by being trodden on and that kind of thing.
Yeah. 11:29, they reached the library where they continued to target students. I believe that there were certain students they were looking for as well.
That's right. They had a list of people of people that they wanted to target and people they absolutely wanted to eliminate during this, murder, during all of this. And the people on the list, it might have been because they said something wrong to them or ignored them, or there was apparently a boy on the list who, just because he was the quarterback and he was popular, and so they hated him. Yeah. And so they absolutely had people that they wanted to target. And when the police, I mean, this is going a little bit ahead now, but when the police found the list and went through it, they actually did achieve, I think they ended up killing like 70% of the people who were actually on that list.
Yeah.
So they were definitely targeting certain people. They obviously knew where they would be and when.
Yeah.
And then the people who were on the list who then weren't killed, my God, can you imagine? How you would feel after that?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. What if you were sick that day? I don't know, and you weren't at school, but you knew you were on that list. Like, I mean, you go buy a lottery ticket, like because you just lucked out. But like, you'd feel sick that other people died as well for the fact that they were looking for you.
Yeah,
the survivor's guilt of that would be, I think, a bit really harsh.
I think
really
it would be so hard.
Yeah,
so hard.
So once they've got into the library, again, this was a major central point of where many victims were killed. So that was 11:29. 11:36 a.m., the police began arriving on the scene. Now, that didn't mean they entered the buildings or anything, but they did arrive and they started securing the perimeter. But none of the police entered the building at this point. They just were assessing the situation. Now, if I do understand that from a point of view of like, this is not at this point, like with this shooting, this is not something that's normal. They don't know how to maybe deal with this situation, but they do learn a lot from this. Whether they learn a lot and then implement it is a different story, because we'll get to that with other cases we look at.
I did hear an interview with one of the first police officers who attended Columbine High School, and he said, they went in, like the SWAT team were there, and they went in sort of not knowing, do we still approach this like we would an adult situation where I mean, at this stage, they didn't even know who the shooters were. They didn't know that they were students or anything like that. But they're like, they're like, this is a school. Like, do we have to change? Is there something different we need to do? So there were questions about that right from the get-go. And yeah, as you said, it has informed different procedures and protocols into the future, but you can understand some hesitation from these men and women who were the first responders,
this would be hard.
it would have been a really tricky judgment call to make. Like, what's the right thing to do? No one actually knows. And you've got an active shooter situation.
Like, oh God.
And they didn't know how many there were either at this point. I mean, I think that was established pretty quickly because obviously students were running out and they were able to give first, witness reports to the police, who were sort of still standing outside trying to figure out what to do.
Because the thing is too, and it's really hard, like you've got to protect the officers, like, sending someone in, blindly to an active shooter situation, that's not smart either. That's not they become victims themselves too. So it's awful.
But then this police officer said in his interview, he's like, I took an oath to protect and serve. So I had to go in.
Yeah.
I had to protect those children who were in there who were innocent.
Absolutely. Oh, it's horrible.
It's absolutely awful.
Yeah. So at 12:08, Harrison and Klebold, they moved through the school from the library to a separate part of the building. I'm not sure what their goal here was in terms of whether they knew where they were going at this point or not, but it was escalating more and more. However, they did take their own lives at this point. So that basically, but still at this point, the police didn't know that they had taken their own lives. They just, I would assume you're kind of going, I haven't heard shooting in a while, but you still don't know that person's no longer.
And they didn't know that there were only two?
Yeah.
Like, there could have been another 20 for all they
hiding
somewhere.
Yeah.
That's right.
So the police actually didn't enter and secure the building until like 1 p.m. At which point they started evacuating students and they went through, but they actually didn't clear the building entirely to work out exactly who the shooters were and who wasn't, and who, because this is the thing, you can't just like evacuate people and let them go because you don't know which one of them, like maybe one of them is the killer, like, that's done this. So there was a way of the process they had to do to keep everyone there, to keep witnesses and everything.
That's it. I mean, they had 2,000 students, I think 600 staff, something like that.
Crazy.
A huge amount of people that they needed to, account for, number one. And number two, as you said, eliminate them as potential suspects.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, they did try and set up a coordinated effort to do that.
Yeah.
But as you said, that takes time. You can't just process that. And of course, so this is back before mobile phones really. This is back before, so people are getting the news either by word of mouth or they're hearing it on the radio. They're hearing it it was by this stage, it was on the midday or the afternoon news broadcast on TV.
Yeah.
But that then drew a whole new bunch of people to come to Columbine because, of course, if you're a parent and you hear that, you could not keep me away.
No.
So it's just, you can imagine the state of chaos that surrounded that event at the time. I just wanted to very quickly go back, though, because one of the things that especially Bowling for Columbine definitely touches on this, the access to guns for these boys.
Yes. Yep.
So in the months prior to these attacks, Harrison Klebold acquired two 9mm shotguns and two 9mm firearms and two 12-gauge shotguns. I don't know anything about guns, but they're big guns. Two of them were big guns and two of them were like little, like handgun type guns.
And he was 17.
17. These were actually purchased by a friend of theirs named Robin Anderson, and he bought them at a gun show.
They were supplied by two people by the name of Mark Maines and Philip Duran. Yeah, they were both actually convicted as well. So they were convicted for supplying handguns to minors because they were only 17. Yeah. So they were illegally in possession of these weapons as well. So it was all so Anderson was kind of a bit of a middleman to these guys.
Yep.
But so Maines received 6 years in prison and Duran received 4.5 years in prison.
Right.
But there were other lawsuits that also
Came
about. So there was financial ones as well where they were held, their families were having to pay a lot of money to victims of families because as a consequence of their actions in this, because otherwise 17-year-olds, even in America, don't have legal rights to possessing guns. And so the fact that they had these guns, they weren't even like that they got them from their parents in their homes and stole them from them. No. They had sourced these from people. So there was a whole
thing around that.
Yeah.
I think they met those blokes through their part-time job at a pizza parlor or something like that.
Yeah.
It's just absolutely crazy. They also just very quickly, the way, like they were looking up how to make bombs and all of that kind of stuff and putting bits and pieces together.
Well, Eric had a whole website about it that he put together.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It was on AOL.
Yeah, all that.
Yeah.
90s.
Yeah, that's it.
I didn't even know the internet in 99.
Bit of a throwback.
Absolutely. But yeah, so his website really went unnoticed basically for a long time until the thing that really sparked what brought it to some attention was that he posted a blog post of saying that all I want to do is kill and injure as many of you as I can, especially a few people like Brooke Brown. Brooke Brown's parents happened to see that on this website and they contacted police. Police actually had investigated the whole thing and had an affidavit, put a request in to have a search warrant of the household, of Eric's household. However, for some reason, it just never got submitted to a judge.
Yeah, it never went anywhere.
And so I don't know what happened there. So that could have potentially put a stop to all this, because the thing was, not only was once his website got a bit sparked like that, he knew, obviously, because it was investigated, he knew that he'd been looked at. He switched from using the computer to write his stuff to writing in notebooks. And the notebooks, holy crap.
Oh my God. Yeah, you can actually see like photographic images of things that he like of those notebooks online. Yeah. Oh my God.
So psychologists have thoroughly gone through those and looked at his writings. And it's been put forward that there's many psychologists, like highly thought of psychologists, believe that he would be considered a psychopath, with many other underlying narcissistic personality traits, borderline personality, antisocial personality, like it combined with all of that. So there's a lot going on for him, and that's I think what we were saying before, that he's saying, you know, society is saying that bullying's to blame and that video games are to blame, when actually ultimately he had a personality trait and psychopathy that were underlying, that probably then led to other people finding him strange and odd and therefore bullying, which I'm so not defending that is the way people should be dealt with, but that's probably where that came from. And the video games became an interest because he was a psychopath.
Yeah.
So it's not those things aren't necessarily what created,
cause and effect, exactly.
What went on. I think he would have gone down that path regardless. Yeah. Could there have been interventions? Potentially.
Yeah, like what were his parents seeing? And
they were a military family who moved around a lot. So I mean that seems to be, there's somewhat of a pattern in. I'm not saying again that everyone that moves around a lot becomes a psychopath or anything, but there's
socially that's really difficult.
Impact socially,
and if you maybe have some kind of mental illness, that would potentially make, you know, making friends more difficult and putting down roots and that kind of thing. You know, that would be more challenging.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The other thing that came out of his writings that I found really interesting was that he had quite a fetish for bondage and a foot fetish.
Oh, yeah.
He wrote, my humanity has a foot fetish and bondage extreme liking. I try to thwart it. He also described his desire for sex with women, especially for raping and torturing women. Mm-hmm. He had a real negative opinion of women in his writings, things like that. He also expressed an interest in cannibalism.
Oh, yuck.
He stated that he would like to dismember a woman with whom he could have animalistic sex and eat her flesh.
Oh, yuck.
So I think that it was probably good that he said goodbye to himself.
Yeah. They saw he had some very intense pornography as well in his possession when they searched his home.
Yeah.
And it was maybe not to the point of cannibalism, but it was certainly sort of the torture of women.
Yeah.
Depicted in that pornography.
Yeah.
Yuck.
Yeah. So I think for Dylan, unfortunately, I think he got caught up with him. He was easily influenced. He didn't appear to have as many diagnosable disorders or personality disorders and things like that was noticeable. But he did have writings as well that he kept, and was certainly a disturbed kid as well.
Yeah.
But was led by Eric.
Yeah. He was the ringleader for sure.
Yeah. Whether or not he would have done that if Eric hadn't come into his life, don't know. Yeah. Oh gosh. Very awful.
Very, very awful.
But at the end of all of this, I mean, as we were saying, I just can't understand the gun laws in America. In this situation, it was a little bit different that they accessed them illegally entirely. And I applaud that there were convictions around that. That's how that should be the case, that these people were found, and the police obviously did a good job of their investigation after the fact to be able to do that.
Absolutely. What they were convicted of, though, was supplying guns to a minor. I don't know where their responsibility lies in terms of the fatalities. I know legally
they were held legally responsible for it to a degree.
Yeah,
not
but
as much as others.
I don't think their sentence reflected that.
Not the sentencing, but there was civil action. So there was a $2.5 million lawsuit awarded to the victims, and a portion of that was paid by
but was it
those
paid
families.
In the end?
Look, that I couldn't find.
Yeah.
And I know. And this is the thing. I do find those rulings. I guess you've got to go into those with those civil suits in a respect of like you just want it to be known.
Yeah.
That they were accountable.
Yeah.
Because whether or not I'm sorry, but many of these families are not going to have $2.5 million in their back pocket to go and pay out these things. So I don't know how that works. But I believe of the $2.5 million, 600,000 of that was given to the two men that were convicted of the possession of the guns.
Okay.
So, I mean, it's a fair... Oh, no, sorry, it might have been more than that even, actually. I think that was 600,000. No, 600,000 was one of them, the main guy.
Yeah.
And Duran, I think, was like, I want to say like 300,000.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, in wrapping up, we just would like to pay respect, obviously, to the victims of this. As we said, there were 16 people who were killed. One of those people, I should just go back to actually, one of the 16 that were killed in this incident actually died, I want to say 26 years after. Yes, 26 years after the shooting.
Yeah.
So Anne-Marie Hochholter?
Yeah.
Hochholter? I hope I'm saying that right.
I think it's Hochholter.
So she was shot in the chest and back and confined to a wheelchair after the shootings. She was actually, it was really sad. Her mother actually committed suicide too in 2009, and she used a gun to do that, which I just sort of feel like that's
too
awful.
much. Awful.
That poor girl, and she actually was quite an advocate for gun laws and all these sorts of things too. She was quite an activist, which was really good on her. But apparently the doctors actually said that her wounds were the worst they saw on that day. Of those that survived, obviously.
And they couldn't believe she survived as long as she did.
Shocked that she survived. So on February 16th, 2025, so only earlier this year, she died at the age of 43. She died due to sepsis, which were complicated by the 2 gunshot wounds that she had received, which is just tragic. So that's really sad. But it goes to show that these shootings, they are not a one-day event. This woman has lived... 26 years, and she would be grateful for every one of those days, I am certain, but it's impacted her life hugely, and not just hers, then everyone else's around all of this. So
there's a podcast called Confronting Columbine, and it's made by one of the survivors by the name of Amy Evans.
Yep.
And it's a fairly recent podcast, but she talks about it you know, she's an adult now, she's got her own children, but she talks about it like it happened to her yesterday. And she just says, I have to live with this every single day. It's not something that will ever leave me.
No.
And so I think this is one of those ripple effect type situations where the actual toll of this is untold. That you could never quantify it because so many people were affected by it. Think about the first responders. Think about, you know, all of the staff and students and their families and even the community, you know. It's just...
the fear that you would have of going to school, which no kid
absolutely
should be scared of going to school.
Well, every American child is probably fearful of, or at least has this in the back of their mind.
Totally.
You know, they do active shooter drills and that kind of thing in schools these days. Like, that's crazy.
Yeah.
So the first fatality was Rachel Scott.
Yep.
She was aged 17 and was killed on the grass outside the West Entrance by Harris.
Yep. Daniel Robor was 15. Killed at the bottom of the stairs leading to West Entrance by Harris.
Then we had Anne-Marie Holcutter, which we've already spoken about. Next, we have William David Sanders. So he was actually a sports coach. He was the basketball coach for the school. Apparently, he was such a lovely man. Like, you know, all of his students really looked up to him, and he was one of those people who had a heart of gold. Students would go to him for so many different things, for counselling and that kind of thing, and he was just a really genuinely lovely teacher and loved doing what he did. He was shot in the hallway adjacent to the library by Harris, and he died of blood loss in a science classroom.
Awful. Kyle Velasquez was 16 and killed sitting in a chair near the middle of the North computer lab by Dylan.
Then we have Stephen Kerno, who was aged 14, killed in the west end of the South computer table in the library by Harris.
And Cassie Burnell was aged 17 and killed under a library table by Harris. And then
Isaiah Scholes, aged 18, killed under the library table by Harris.
Matthew Kechter, 16 and killed under a library table by Klebold.
Lauren Townsend, aged 18, killed under the library table by Klebold.
And then John Tomlin, aged 16, killed under the library table by Klebold after being also wounded by Harris.
Kelly Fleming, aged 16, killed next to the library table by Harris.
Daniel Mauser, aged 15, killed under a library table by Harris.
Corey DePuta, aged 17, killed under the library table by Klebold.
And then the shooters killed themselves, and they add up to the 16 that were killed. I mean, just
horrific.
Awful.
Absolutely horrific.
Heart goes out to all their families and friends.
And the people who are still living with this day, you know, day in and day out. There is a memorial to all of the victims at the site, at the school, and apparently it's quite a powerful, imposing almost, you know, remembrance to all of those, or tribute to all of those who died. We can probably get into this in one of the next two episodes, because I just noticed this one's already gone way longer than what we thought. But what the fuck?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
What the fuck?
Yeah, absolutely. Right. Stay
Two
curious.
more sleeps, guys, and we'll release the next one.
Absolutely. Till then, stay curious, crime besties.
Bye.